Hello and welcome to the CX Files podcast for May the 1st, 2025. My name is Mark Hillary and I'm in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
And I'm Peter Ryan in Montreal, but not for much longer, Mark, as the countdown to CX outsourcers in Munich is truly happening. And in just a few short days, I will be hopping on the plane, jumping onto the Lufthansa flight to Munich. Can't wait to catch up with so many old friends, colleagues, and CX leaders and disruptors.
That's excellent. Well, it's always great to get back to Munich. I was actually planning to go there in the summer, but that's kind of shifted. It looks more like I might be there for Oktoberfest this year. So that's always a good thing, though.
I was going to say, if you had to be in Munich at a certain point of time, if it's not CXO, Oktoberfest definitely counts.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's great that you're heading off to Europe because we have a European theme to the pod this week. I talked with Jonas Berggren, who's the Chief Business Development Officer, and he's actually also on the board of Transcom. I had a conversation with him out of his base in Stockholm, Sweden. And it's actually because Jonas and I have written a new book together, which is called CX Revolution. And today is the first day that we're actually sort of publicly talking about it, even though I know 1st of May is a holiday in many different markets. But certainly over in the US, I think everybody's still working today. So we just decided that, on the normal Thursday CX Files podcast, we'd make an announcement that it's now available. You can go to Amazon or your favorite bookstore to buy it. And really, because I worked on this project with Jonas, it was more a question of me asking him how the project got started and why he felt it was important. Because really, I don't know if you've read Jonas's newsletter on LinkedIn. He does a newsletter called Transform Customer Service. And he's done that for about 3 years now. And I actually just reached out to him on LinkedIn and said, hey, Transform Customer Service is actually really good because it always looks at the future of customer service. You should wrap some of these ideas together and make a book out of it. And originally he laughed at me and said, how do you turn a LinkedIn newsletter into a book? And eventually I think I must have convinced him that it was a good idea because now we've got a 200-page book out of it.
Congratulations on the book. I think it's going to be fantastic to pick up, and I can't wait to read it. Jonas has got just a tremendous background in our space, having made just quite the career in CX. And I think combining your knowledge, your insight with his own is going to make for a fascinating blueprint about where the sector is going.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole idea of the CX revolution with the R in brackets is that there is a sort of evolution of customer service taking place, but a revolution in terms of technology. So there's a sort of twin track taking place at the moment. But, rather than us kind of gassing on about it, it's probably better to go to the interview with Jonas because then you can actually hear him talking about his ideas for the book and me talking about how I got involved in it.
That sounds great. Well, let's go right to that interview.
Jonas, hi, it's great to see you. Well, we're talking about our joint book, the CX Revolution. I know it's probably a bit unusual for me to be interviewing you, seeing as we both worked on this project. But Peter, I was trying to get Peter to do the interview, but he's also been flying around the world pretty much just as much as you have. So it's kind of impossible to get everybody together at the same time. So at least it's good for us to have a conversation. I think to start off with, maybe we should give the origin story. I said to you that your newsletter, the Transform Customer Service newsletter, has got some really interesting content. And why don't you expand that into a book? What did you think when I first sort of sent you that message?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, and also thanks for all the nice collaboration we've had over the last couple of years around this content. I want to start there. But yeah, to be honest, spontaneously said, I was thinking, are you nuts? A book? I'm not an author. So, in my mind, I was thinking a book is something thick. We only have a few articles, and how would that make a book unless we write a lot more? And when should we have time to do that? And then it needs to fit together and make some kind of connected story. So yeah, I mean, to say the least, I was probably a bit skeptical in my first reactions. But on the other hand, it was kind of like, what a crazy idea. You really think we could make one? So yeah, you can. It grew on me, and then you kind of convinced me.
Well, your name is on Amazon now, and I think it turned out to be about 208 pages.
I know, and it's just amazing how what I thought as a few articles, when you stack them up, and we did some work to the beginning and the end, and sorted some dated stuff back from our early ones. I was amazed that it could be so many pages, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, the theme of the book is sort of generally it's around a future of CX. But can you explain maybe why you wanted to use this CX revolution and evolution? We've got brackets around the R, so it's sort of both words at the same time. And that was your idea to do that. So maybe just talk to that point. I mean, why did you think of the simultaneous evolution and revolution?
Well, when you ask me, what title should we have, and you and I have been discussing this sort of. I mean, in our early, if I remember correctly now, in some of our early blogs and articles, we talked about the evolution of the consumer or the customer, how that have changed over the years, and how some of the bars have been raised a lot versus a few years earlier, and how the expectation has become different, and maybe to some extent more advanced and more demanding on one hand. And then but mankind still moves slowly. So compared, when you swap to the tech track, and you look at the evolution of tech track, it's rather a revolution. You have these big paradigm shifts, like when the computer came, when the internet came, and now when generative AI comes, that moves a lot faster. But now we're kind of in that generative AI paradigm shift. So we have a revolution going on the tech side, but we still have sort of the good old evolution in mankind, and people and their behavior and their expectation and the way they view things and what they value and so forth. So I thought it was interesting, what does that mean then, if you have that evolution just grinding on, and then you have this quick paradigm shift happening on the tech side right now with the generative AI and the things around that. What does that mean for countries, for societies, for companies, for people in general, for you and me? I just thought it was fascinating.
Yeah, and certainly over the past couple of years, we've seen this huge innovation around using AI in the customer experience, and it does play a significant role. I mean, we're often talking about AI in the book, but I think there were also quite a few warnings about just relying on the promise or the media promise of AI. So where do you think some mistakes have been made with this kind of automation?
Well, I mean, first of all, as always, around new tech that creates new possibilities or new opportunities for solving things differently than you could solve it before you had this type of components at your disposal. I mean, there's always like a security dimension. I mean, and that kind of leans in maybe to the maturity. It's toddler tech in the beginning, so we saw a little bit of this use cases with some hallucinations and those type of funny things and funny behavior. Maybe we did so maybe we're a bit quick putting it out there before testing it, and maybe also making sure that we are within all the frameworks and all the regulations. And to be fair, I mean, since it's new, also there wasn't some regulations in place in certain areas, so that was also like a white space for some people on how do we handle that, and then you have, obviously, because it was generative AI, so it was creating things, so that brought a new dimension to it. And then obviously, when you want to put it to use, I mean, in our world, CX, and when we work, for example, with a customer interaction, you could make it harder or more easy on yourself, depending on what type of intents do you pick to try it on. Do you take the simple ones, or do you go straight for the more complex ones? So, I mean, maybe sometimes we did some mistakes when we went too much over on the complex side. And then the next thing I would say, removing too much of humans out of it. So we wanted it to be an end-to-end sort of self-service. It should, interpret your language, interpret your intent, and then have, be able to generate some sort of solution and close the case. And obviously the tech wasn't up for that, immediately, and we didn't know really how to apply it immediately, and we didn't know the tech enough immediately. So maybe we failed a little bit in also providing some smooth fallbacks, or more using the tech to help the humans be better and be able to do more, or maybe do it faster to some extent. So it was a little bit about the implementation models and the speed of implementation, how we faced it and so forth. So there's a book to be written on this topic only.
Yeah. We probably need a couple of years down the line, and then there can be some very interesting use cases. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, there's also some big picture themes in the book, especially around innovation. And I think this is what you were alluding to earlier when you were saying there's an evolution, but there's also this kind of paradigm shift as well as stuff like Gen AI becomes possible. And certainly there's topics such as the fourth industrial revolution. We referenced Stephen Loyne's book on innovation. And do you think that sometimes, when we're focusing on designing customer service metrics, or, we've got the day-to-day stuff that we need to manage, and we kind of forget about the big picture where we're seeing entire industries changing around us?
Yeah, I mean, I personally was fascinated. I mean, because you don't maybe over your lifetime get to experience so many phases where the evolution is always ongoing with mankind, right? But those tech paradigm shifts, they happen, more occasionally. So it's always fascinating when you get a chance to be, in the midst of it when it happens, and just observe and reflect. So yes, sometimes I think it's good to take a step back and reflect on the bigger picture, and the more holistic view, instead of just immediately leaning in and jump into the water and hope technology itself solves everything. It's just much more complex, and involves knowledge of where to use it, how to use it, clarity on what the outcomes you're looking for should be, and the patience to try and fail, and find, in a controlled way, what can be enterprised and scaled and so forth. So for me, I was a bit fascinated over this entire thing that I saw around me, and obviously you reflect a lot of what that could mean, in the bigger sense.
Yeah.
For everything, countries, societies, companies, everything, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Well, I think that we've all seen this with the PC, email, social media.
Exactly.
We've seen a number of big changes like this in our lifetime. I wanted to just ask about some of the pragmatism as well, because, when we had conversations about this, I guess a lot of the focus in the last couple of years has been just AI. How does AI improve everything? But there's also tools out there and solutions, things like WhatsApp, for example, where, if you're going to your water company in Brazil or India, then there's some great automation that's already there without all these new technologies. And yet you go to your water company in maybe the UK, for example, and they're not using that sort of system. So, I mean, is there a lot of stuff out there already that could be deployed that that doesn't need the Gen AI factor as well?
I think so. I think you're right. And for a curious guy like me, these type of things that happens is super interesting. And I tend to want to dive into it because I want to know how does it work, how can it be used. But I think you point out an important thing, and I think some people learned it the hard way also when they quickly leaned in and they wanted to go for the big scheme immediately. They realized, wow, when we have a pilot, you don't consume so much capex, but when you want to try to scale it and you want to transcribe a lot of data and you want to deploy it on a lot of workstations in our world, then the price tag also skyrocketed. And I think for simpler tasks or use cases, you can maybe save a lot of time, money, effort, etc., using a simpler, tested, reliable tool that still does the job. So, you don't have to. Sometimes maybe that we were thinking about use cases where the latest tech was an overkill.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting about the cost of some of the technology, because I saw just recently Sam Altman at OpenAI asking people to stop saying please and thank you when they engage with ChatGPT, because it's actually costing them a hell of a lot of money just processing those kind of human type interactions.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of like when they launch features like where you can sort of do a deeper, not to make a joke on DeepSeek, but when you want to do a deeper thing on your Gemini or your ChatGPT or whatever you're using, then it produces fantastic results. But I mean, the calculations behind it and the energy that consume. I mean, I've seen some articles that we're almost overloading the system immediately, and we're just in the beginning of trying this out. So I think that's why you also see some of these big tech giants are looking into investing a lot. I mean, I don't remember correctly, maybe, but I think it was Microsoft that were looking into investing in nuclear plants, and stuff like that. I mean, how do you connect that? That is kind of a crazy thought, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the book opens with a statement from yourself. In the world of today, the relationship is the brand and the experience is the product. And I was thinking about that when I was looking at the manuscript, because it seems that you're talking about the time horizon for the relationship with the customer. We've always tended to focus on the actual process of engaging, and that kind of it's very transactional. How do we make the customer service process better? But it seems as if you're talking about, we need to think more about the decades of potential interactions with this customer. I mean, is that how you see it?
Yeah, I think you've been working too much with me now, so you know me too well. But I'm a strong believer in building long-lasting relationship, and kind of, I mean, what I do is not always the easiest elevator pitch to explain, not even to my family that heard me a lot, and spend a lot of time with me. But I really believe that the key for companies like Transcorp that I represent, and BPO companies in general, I mean, in essence, we are representing our clients' brand in front of their customers. So it's a really important and serious job task, right? I mean, it comes with a lot of responsibility. But if we can build long-lasting relationships, and if we can increase value over time in those relationships, I think we've done a really good job. And for companies independent of industry or geography, I think it's a solid strategy to build both your brand and your profitability or any other prioritized result that you're looking for. Having said that, as a former football player, I know that you're not better than your last performance, and customers tend to judge a lot based on the last interaction. But if you have those strong relationships and you've had this strategy over time, you maybe have earned some leeway and some forgiveness, and that will play out in your loyalty scores. And when you don't have leakage in your customer base, everything you win is growth, right? And profitable growth is what a lot of companies or brands are striving for. So in my view, brands should pull more than push in its attempt to attract and keep customers over time. That's kind of my view.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, just to close out then, I mean, this entire book project came out of the newsletter. So what are you thinking about for the newsletter going forward? Will it sort of still focus on the future? And what are your thoughts on the remaining part of the 2020s then?
Great question. I think it will continue to be more, forward-looking than the opposite. But also, I like to reflect about what certain predictions might mean or what consequences there could be, both on the opportunity and on the risk side of things. I think my clients are very focused right now on finding out the sweet spot for them in their particular context, how to put this new technology to work in their organization, get their general AI literacy up on their employees to make things happen. That makes them more competitive and resistant for what's ahead. I mean, all we know is that the future is the place where we will spend the rest of our lives, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on that note, let's end that discussion. I will make sure that the details of the newsletter and the book are all in the show notes. Okay.
Super. As always, pleasure talking to you, Mark. And thanks for all the support.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the CX Files podcast. We really appreciate your feedback and suggestions. You can reach myself, Mark Hillary, or Peter Ryan via LinkedIn. Please also leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast provider, as that helps more people to find us. As always, we'd like to thank Chris Haig at Traction Media for the CX Files graphics. See you next week.